I'm a counselor and I hate to break it to you, but toxic relationships are destroying your personal growth. Toxic relationships that people have are often hidden and slowly suck away at your three most valuable resources: your time, your focus, and your energy. I have a 6-step system that I use to identify and rid my life of toxic relationships and also help others with this system as well. Start using this system today to escape hidden toxicity. First, we have to see the signs and build the wall. First step is recognizing and identifying the signs of toxic relationships. A toxic relationship, as defined by me, is a relationship that is unsupportive or detrimental to your growth and or goals that cannot be settled with boundaries and understanding. The reason it's so hard to deal with toxic relationships is because some people are rooted in their own negative beliefs, only focused on the benefits that they get from a situation, and they have negative worldviews. It's likely for a lot of people to have this in their family. I personally have experienced this in many of my family members that have their own selfish agendas that tend to backfire on me when you're too close to them, and you end up having to deal with the consequences of their actions due to their disregard to anything that doesn't inconvenience them, but only inconveniences you. I often relate toxic relationships to how oak trees reproduce. How an oak tree reproduces is by acorns falling on the ground and ultimately ending up landing on fertile ground so they can grow. Unfortunately, some acorns land too close to the tree it came from. The roots from the original tree end up hogging all the nutrients from the soil itself. The branches end up blocking all the sunlight from the soil where the acorn landed, and the water is absorbed mostly by the original tree because it has more roots. The oak tree is a toxic relationship in this case, and if you don't identify it, you'll be sucked dry of your potential. Look for extreme needs to control you, extreme jealousy, manipulation, isolation, and emotional and or physical abuse when trying to figure out if someone is toxic to you. Secondly, you're gonna have to set boundaries. Some people are so toxic they avoid boundaries altogether, but it's oftentimes when we start to realize that a relationship may be toxic that we give it one last chance. First, we get clear on what our boundaries are. There are 3 main types of boundaries as I understand them: emotional boundaries that protect your emotions and mental well-being, physical boundaries that protect your personal space and body, and time boundaries that protect your time and how you manage it. Now we need to communicate them clearly next. If you're looking to communicate the best, you'll want to choose the right timing and context. You want to be direct and specific, and also you want to use I statements when speaking. Using the right timing and context is important because you don't want to bring up bad things when things are already going bad and create a bunch of emotionally charged conversation. You want to be direct and specific so you can give this person a chance to truly understand what you're saying. And you want to use I statements so that the person cannot take offense that you're calling them out, but truly say what you are feeling. I am feeling this. I cannot handle when this happens and I feel this way. Use I statements when communicating to communicate effectively. This will make it least likely for boundaries to be misinterpreted, and you can see how a toxic person that you may be suspecting truly reacts to you when you state your boundaries clearly and effectively. Next, we have to find more water and grow new roots. The third step we start to use is to search for support. During this time of change, you'll likely want some support. When there is any change in life, there typically is some support required. You have mental support like coping skills or thought processes that numb pain. You have physical support as well. It's best to think of your support like a circle. You don't necessarily have to tell everyone in your circle of support exactly what you're going through, but you want people in your support circle that will help you feel good and support you when you're under the weather. Look for 1 or more people to include in your support circle. It can be a family member, a support group, a life coach, a counselor, a therapist, a friend. Don't try to do this alone if you don't have to. Next step is your self-care. Self-care is needed if you want to grow roots into a solid foundation. It's oftentimes that when we're in toxic relationships, your self-love, your confidence, and your focus is a lot of times destroyed. You need a solid foundation, and luckily the solid foundation is you. Whether you just go on walks, daydream, or watch YouTube videos on a Saturday morning in bed, pour into yourself and fall back in love with you and your potential again. You are greater than just your attachment to somebody else. Practicing self-care alone or with others will help you fall back in love with yourself and what the future has in store for you. The next section is cutting ties and teary eyes. Now, the next step is making a decision. I call this step scissors because you have 3 decisions to make, and I kind of see them in my head as a piece of paper being cut. Either you cut this person off, you don't cut them off and move forward, or you distance yourself and remove access to you in certain ways. This is a decision nobody can make for you, but I have a general framework on how I categorize which decision will be made for a specific type of person. You typically cut off a person who is not willing to change and acknowledge your boundaries. You typically stay with a person who genuinely is making an effort to change and are making changes to acknowledge the boundaries that you hadn't been acknowledging or that they hadn't been acknowledging before. Lastly, you typically distance yourself from people who may be closer to you and that you have to come into contact with regularly, like family, but whose behaviors are toxic to your life. So the only way around them is for you to take away certain levels of access to you from them. If this categorization helps you take action or even make you think harder about who you have allowed access to you, I have done my job. Lastly, the last step is about healing. You likely need time to feel your best self again. You need time to reflect on the relationship that has been destroyed from toxic behaviors and reflect on it as unbiasedly as possible. Where did this person go wrong? Where did you go wrong? What could you do better? These are questions you should ask yourself. This can oftentimes take support and outside feedback, but try to reflect with no emotion, seek to learn, and not reminisce about a toxic situation. During this time, focus on 3 things. Lean on your support, cry if you need to, and build a new you. The focus is building a more experienced, better you so that you can learn from and avoid negative relationships in the future. You can't control people, but you can learn from ones who have held you back due to their toxic behaviors. Moving forward and sprouting. Most of handling toxic relationships has to do with having support in this crazy world. There will always be people who are inconsiderate and have bad habits and things that just won't go away. That's why I make frameworks that help people gamify life and hold themselves accountable to the changes they want to see and the generational curses they want to break. If you want more content like this, subscribe to my newsletter and follow me on Instagram. Peace.